CEO fired the pregnant waitress on the spot. But her baby looked just like him. It was supposed to be just another shift. One more night of fake smiles, aching feet, and trays heavy with champagne flutes for people who never noticed her. But when Isabella, 8 months pregnant and barely keeping it together, stepped into the Astoria Grand Ballroom, she had no idea her life was about to explode in front of 100 eyes. At the head of the room stood Damien Thorne, the city's youngest and most ruthless CEO, a man feared by competitors and worshipped by shareholders. Cold, calculating, and devastatingly handsome in his black tailored suit, Damien wasn't known for compassion, especially not for women like her. Their eyes met. His smile faded. His jaw clenched. Then, without warning, "You're fired." His voice cut through the music like glass. "Get out of my hotel. Now!" Gasps echoed. Glasses stopped midair. But she didn't move. She couldn't, because the baby inside her kicked, and she knew something that he didn't. That child, his child, was about to change everything. The golden chandeliers above cast a warm glow over velvet curtains and crystal glasses, but Isabella felt none of it. Her back ached, her feet throbbed, and the baby growing inside her pressed against her ribs as if sensing the storm about to erupt. She moved carefully through the ballroom, balancing a tray of hors d'oeuvres, keeping her head low, hoping to go unnoticed. But fate had other plans. From across the room, Damien Thorne's eyes locked on her. For a moment, the noise faded. The orchestra, the murmurs of billionaires, the clinking of glasses, all disappeared. There was only her and him. He took a slow step forward, expression unreadable. Then another. People turned to watch, sensing drama, always hungry for it. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, pointing directly at her belly. "Are you working like that? In my hotel?" She froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. He yanked the tray from her hands, sending shrimp skewers scattering across the floor. "You think this is some charity case? This is a luxury establishment. And you waddling around like this are a liability." Tears pricked her eyes, but she held her ground. "Please, I need this job. I have rent. You have 5 seconds to get out." His voice was ice. "You're fired. And don't even think about compensation." The room went silent. Some whispered. Others just watched, entertained by the cruelty. Isabella stood there, breathing shallowly, heart pounding, humiliation burning through her skin like acid. Then she turned slowly, placing her hand over her belly as if shielding her child from the hatred in his words. But before walking away, she whispered under her breath, "You don't even remember me, do you?" He didn't hear it, but soon he would. 3 years earlier, the city wasn't dressed in diamonds and silk back then. It was rain-slicked sidewalks, empty wallets, and a girl who couldn't afford a dream. Isabella was just 19 when she met him. Not Damien Thorne, the billionaire. Not the CEO. Just Damien, the stranger in the corner booth of a rundown diner at 2 a.m., soaked from the rain and sipping bad coffee like it was the last warmth in the world. She had offered him a towel. He had offered her a story. One night, one conversation, one electric moment where the world outside disappeared. "I just lost my mother," he had said softly, eyes shadowed with pain. She was all I had left. She didn't ask for details. Instead, she sat across from him after her shift ended, still in her apron, and just listened. That night, she told him about her own broken pieces. The father who never stayed, the mother who worked 3 jobs until her back gave out, and the dreams she'd buried beneath bills and expectations. They were just 2 strangers in the dark, finding something human in each other. And then, one kiss. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't desperate. It was something far more dangerous. It was real, but by morning he was gone. No name, no number, just a folded napkin with the words, "Some lives only touch once. But I won't forget you." He had lied. He did forget her, but she never forgot him. Because 3 weeks later, when she looked down at the pregnancy test in her hand, it was his name she whispered. "Damien." The apartment was barely more than a shoebox. Cracked tiles, flickering lights, and a heater that groaned louder than it worked. But to Isabella, it was home. Every corner was built with sacrifice. Every crack held a story, and in the center of it all was Luca, her son, her miracle. His eyes were the first thing people noticed. Dark, deep, intense. The same shade as the man who had shattered her. But Luca didn't know heartbreak. He only knew warmth. He only knew his mother's lullabies, the soft hum she sang to him while rocking him to sleep. He only knew love. And he only ever saw his mother cry once. On the night, she couldn't pay the electric bill, and they lit candles like it was a game. He clapped his hands in wonder. She cried in the dark. He was almost 2 now. Bright, curious, always asking about his father. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" She would pause, smile softly, and lie. "He's far away, baby. But Mommy loves you enough for both of us." But each time she said it, it cracked something inside her, because Damien Thorne didn't know he had a son. And if he did, would he even care? She told herself it didn't matter, that they didn't need him, that she could do this alone. But when her job was taken from her so publicly, so cruelly, with her dignity stripped in front of strangers, she knew something had to change. He had to know, not for her, not for revenge, for Luca. 3 days had passed since the humiliating scene at the ballroom. Isabella tried to keep going. She sent out resumes, knocked on restaurant back doors, even asked her old landlord for extra cleaning hours. But doors closed faster than they opened. Her savings were gone. Formula was running low. Rent was past due. And Luca had stopped smiling. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, until that Friday morning. She bundled Luca in his little coat and decided to walk to the city gardens, the one place he could run freely and laugh, even if it only lasted an hour, as he darted toward the fountain. Chasing pigeons with pure joy, Isabella let herself breathe. For a moment, she forgot the way of the world, until she turned and saw him. Damien, not in a suit, not at a gala, just Damien, in joggers and a hoodie, sipping a coffee, scrolling through his phone as he walked a sleek black dog. He didn't see her. Not yet. Her pulse quickened. Her breath caught. She knew she could turn away, hide behind the hedges, disappear again. But then she heard it, "Mister?" Luca's voice, full of curiosity. "Your dog is pretty." Damien looked up. Their eyes met, and time shattered. His gaze moved from the boy to her. Confusion twisted into shock, and something colder. His brows furrowed. "You again?" But his voice lacked the venom of the ballroom. This time, it was tinged with something else. A flicker of recognition. He knelt slowly, eyeing Luca. "Hey there, kid. What's your name?" "Luca," the boy beamed. "I like your dog." But Damien wasn't looking at the dog anymore. He was staring into the boy's eyes. His own eyes. And something inside him faltered. "Luca," he repeated, barely a whisper. Isabella stepped forward, arms tightening protectively around her son. "We should go," she said quickly, heart thundering. But Damien didn't move. He just stared at the little boy who had his. Jawline, his eyes, his soul. And for the first time in years, Damien Thorne forgot how to breathe. Damien couldn't sleep that night. He tried to bury himself in spreadsheets, in stock reports, in back-to-back calls with international investors. But all he saw, all he felt, were those eyes. Luca's eyes. The same ones that stared back at him in the mirror every morning. Impossible. It couldn't be. He would have remembered her, remembered that. And yet, deep down, something inside him whispered otherwise. She wasn't lying. The next morning, Damien made the call. Not to his lawyer, not to his board, to Isabella. She didn't answer at first. Not until the 5th try. Her voice was tired. "Raw, what do you want now? Haven't you taken enough?" There was a pause on his end. Then he spoke, quieter than she expected. "Bring him in. Let's do the test." Silence. "I'll pay for everything. Full panel. Private. Discreet." She laughed bitterly. "Because your pride won't let you accept what your eyes already told you?" He didn't answer that. Because she was right. 2 days later, they sat across from each other in a cold, sterile clinic room. Luca played with a stuffed giraffe, unaware of the storm swirling around him. The nurse swabbed his cheek gently. Then Damien's. No words were exchanged. No glances held, only a silence, so heavy it pressed on both of them like stone. As they left, Isabella finally spoke. I didn't come back to ruin your life, Damien. He looked at her, jaw tight. I didn't even know you existed, he said bitterly. And whose fault is that? She fired back, eyes glassy. They stood there, two people who had touched once in a storm of grief, now pulled into a bigger one by a little boy who didn't ask for any of it. 3 days later, the results came in positive, 99.98% match. Luca was a son. Damien stared at the paper, every line of ink more brutal than the last. He felt something twist in his chest. Not fear, not anger, but something deeper. Responsibility. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do. Damien Thorne didn't like loose ends. He built empires by eliminating uncertainty. If something didn't make sense, he bought it, buried it, or broke it until it did. And now, sitting in his penthouse office overlooking the city he ruled, he tried to do the same with Isabella. The DNA test was conclusive. Luca was his son. There was no denying it now. So he did what he knew best. He wrote a contract. Custody, protection, generous monthly payments, a private school, trust fund, even a new apartment. It was flawless, perfectly bound, perfectly logical. He summoned Isabella to his office, a palace of glass and steel, built on numbers and power. She entered wearing the same second-hand coat, holding her son's worn backpack, eyes alert like someone entering enemy territory. He stood, offering her a chair. She didn't sit. I want what's best for Luca, he began, voice rehearsed, coldly professional. And I believe you do too. He slid the folder across the table. This is an agreement. It ensures your financial stability, his education, and my involvement. She didn't touch it. Instead, she looked at him, truly looked at him, and let out a soft, stunned laugh. You think you can fix this with money? He blinked. I'm offering security, protection, every opportunity he deserves. No, she said, you're offering control. Her voice sharpened. You humiliated me. You abandoned me without even knowing it. And now, because the truth makes you uncomfortable, you want to wrap us in gold and pretend that fixes the past. He stepped forward. I just want to be part of his life. Then start with being present, she snapped. Not with contracts. Damien's jaw tensed. Do you think I'm trying to buy him? No, she said quietly. You're trying to buy me. The room went still. Then, slowly, she pushed the folder back across the desk. If you want to be Luca's father, Damien, you'll have to earn it, not buy it. And with that, she turned and walked out. Again. But this time, Damien wasn't angry. He was shaken, because for the first time, a woman had looked him in the eye and refused everything he thought made him powerful. And he didn't know whether to fight her or follow her. It had been 2 weeks since Isabella walked out his office. No lawyers, no deals, no silence either. Instead, she sent a message. Luca's daycare has bring your father to class day this Friday. You don't have to come. Damien read the message 6 times. He didn't reply. He didn't know how. What did he know about finger paints and snack time? About juice boxes and nap mats? About little hands reaching for big promises? But on Friday morning, he stood in front of Little Steps Daycare, wearing jeans for the first time in years, holding a paper bag with Luca's favorite dinosaur crackers, a detail Isabella had slipped into conversation without realizing. The children's laughter hit him like a song from another world. He stepped inside, and for a moment, all eyes turned to him. Fathers in hoodies, paint-stained aprons, tired but joyful. And then Luca's voice rose above the rest. That's him, the boy shouted, running full speed toward him. Damien braced himself. Luca threw his arms around his legs. You came. He looked down, startled. Yeah, I came. The teacher welcomed them and handed out supplies, construction paper, crayons, glue sticks. The task was simple. Make a Father's Day card. Together, Damien sat awkwardly beside his son. He'd signed billion-dollar deals, but holding a crayon felt like defusing a bomb. What should we draw? He asked. Luca thought for a moment. Draw your face. But smiling. Damien blinked. He tried. It was terrible. Luca laughed. That doesn't look like you at all. Maybe that's a good thing, Damien muttered, surprised by his own smile. An hour passed. By the end, their card was messy, glittery, and perfect. On the front, Luca had written, "My dad is strong. My dad is new. My dad came." Damien read it 3 times. He felt something swell in his chest. Something terrifying. Love. Not the kind you plan for. The kind that undoes you. Later, outside the daycare, Isabella waited. "How was it?" she asked, arms crossed, unreadable. Damien handed her the card. She opened it, and for the first time, her eyes welled with something other than anger. He didn't speak. He didn't have to, because for the first time, he was showing up, and that, she realized, meant more than any contract ever could. The rain came suddenly, harsh, relentless, and almost biblical. The city fell under a heavy storm warning, but Isabella had no choice. Luca had a fever, and the pediatrician's office was across town. She bundled him tightly, grabbed her umbrella, and stepped into chaos. Taxis were full, buses delayed. She walked. Each step was harder than the last. Luca whimpered in her arms, cheeks burning, tiny hands clinging to her jacket. Cars honked. Thunder cracked. She was soaked through by the time she reached the crosswalk near 5th and Monroe. That's when her world tilted. Her foot slipped. The sidewalk gave way to water. Her ankle twisted. She fell hard, shielding Luca with her entire body. Pain exploded through her leg. She tried to get up, but couldn't. The cold seeped into her skin. Panic set in. Luca cried louder. No one stopped. No one saw, except one car that screeched to a halt across the intersection. The back door flew open. Damien, he didn't think. He didn't hesitate. In 2 strides, he was beside her, lifting Luca first, then cradling Isabella in his arms as if she weighed nothing. "Hold. On," he murmured, voice cracking. "I've got you." At the hospital, Luca was stabilized. The fever was a virus, nothing serious. But Isabella's ankle was fractured. She'd need rest. Crutches. Help. Damien never left. He stood by the hospital bed like a soldier on watch, coat soaked, hair dripping. When Isabella woke, she blinked at the ceiling, then at him. "You came," she whispered. He nodded. "Of course I did." Tears welled in her eyes, not from the pain in her leg, but from the pain she'd hidden in her heart for too long. "I didn't know how to ask," she said. "You didn't have to," he replied. Outside, the storm continued to rage. But inside that room, something changed. Not with words, not with grand gestures, with presence, with choice, with the quiet realization that family isn't just blood. It's showing up when it hurts, when it's inconvenient, when it matters most. And in that moment, for the first time since that night at the diner years ago, Isabella let herself believe he might not leave again. The hospital room was dim, quiet. Luca had finally drifted into sleep, curled against Isabella's good side, his breath warm and steady against her arm. Damien sat in the chair by the window, hands clasped, staring at the rain streaking down the glass. He hadn't spoken in over an hour. Isabella could feel something building inside him, like a dam threatening to break. And then softly, almost too softly to catch, she said, "I remember you." Her heart skipped. "I tried to forget," he continued. "That night at the diner. Your eyes. Your voice. How I felt like I wasn't alone anymore." He stood slowly, moving toward her bed, but not too close, like he didn't trust himself. "I left before sunrise. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't believe I deserved what you gave me." She frowned. "What did I give you?" He looked at her, really looked. "Peace," he said, for the first time in years. She swallowed hard. "I told you I just lost my mother. That was true. But what I didn't tell you was that she didn't die from illness. She overdosed." Isabella blinked. "I grew up in wealth. Yes, but it was poison. My father built an empire and destroyed every soul around him. My mother tried to survive it. She didn't." He paused. And I swore I'd never let anyone get close enough to do that to me again. His voice shook, so I became him. Cold, sharp, untouchable. He looked down as if ashamed, until Luca, her breath caught. He looks at me like I'm someone worth loving, like I'm not broken. And you, his voice cracked. You stood in front of me in that ballroom, with nothing but dignity and pain in your eyes, and you still walked out with your head high. He stepped closer now. I don't want to be the man who fired you, or forgot you, or turned his back on the only real moment I've had in years. Silence. Then, softly, I want to be the man who earns your forgiveness and your trust, even if it takes the rest of my life. Isabella's eyes welled. She looked at Luca, then at Damien. You were always that man, she whispered. You just didn't believe it yet. And with those words, something old between them broke, and something new began. 2 months had passed since the hospital. Damien showed up every single day. He brought breakfast to Isabella, took Luca to school, sat through PDA meetings, and learned how to braid his son's hair, even if he never got it right. But he never asked for more than she was willing to give. Until now. It was a clear spring evening, the city glowing gold as the sun slipped behind the skyline. In her hands, Isabella held a small velvet box, unopened. He had given it to her that morning. No grand proposal, no demands, just a folded note. This isn't about making it official. This is about choosing us when you're ready. She looked out the window of her new apartment. The one she chose, not the one he offered. Luca was asleep, curled with his favorite toy dinosaur, and her heart ached not from confusion, but from clarity, because love, real love, had come softly without forcing. Damien had changed, not with words, with consistency, with presence, with humility. He hadn't tried to own her. He tried to deserve her. The doorbell rang. She opened it. Damien stood there in a plain gray hoodie, holding 2 ice cream cones. Chocolate fudge or vanilla caramel? He asked awkwardly. She smiled. Both. I had a hard day. He handed them over. She stepped aside. He walked in. The silence between them wasn't awkward now. It was full of peace. She placed the box on the table. He saw it, said nothing, until she looked up and said quietly, I opened it. His breath hitched. She walked to him, slowly, took his hand. I don't want a contract, or protection, or a fairy tale. I know, he whispered. I want us. Messy, honest, real. She paused, looking into his eyes. And if you still want to choose me, I choose you too. His eyes filled. He didn't say, I love you. He didn't need to, because when he wrapped his arms around her and she buried her face in his chest, both of them knew this wasn't about redemption. It was about finally coming home.